Ever taken a class that focused more on your own journey than grades or assignments? Today, we're chatting with USF students Jon Rosario-Bub, Temi David, and Professor Ulluminair Salim about the unique honors course Narrative Cartography, mapping the stories of your life, coming up next. Hey Honors Bowls, welcome to the Honor Roll Podcast, the flagship podcast of the Judy Genshaft Honors College Podcast Network. I am your host, Sophia Nobles, a fourth-year student studying marketing. My co-host this week is Amelia Brown. She is a third-year student studying PR. Welcome to the podcast, Amelia.
Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
So it's our first week of classes. How are things going? How's the fall treating you?
Things have been going pretty good. I'm really excited to see everybody back and busy, seeing all the freshmen do interesting things. It's been fun. I really love it. I love having a busy building. It's my favorite time of the year for sure.
Yes, I can relate. Over the summer, it was really quiet. But now being back, it's great. It's great to see everybody again. And as always, we like to start our podcast off with one big question. So my question this week is, have you ever taken a class that changed your life?
I haven't taken a class just yet. I am a junior, but I have a little time left, and I haven't taken one that changed my life yet, but I am excited to see what I'm going to have in my future. I am planning on taking a master's, and I think that my master's will have something really interesting for me in my future.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be a big change. For me, I took a class with Dr. Cross my junior year, and it was focusing a lot around internships for nonprofits. And so one of the big parts of the course was interviewing people. So we interviewed I think I interviewed 20 people over the course of the semester. And so I really learned how to interview and talk to people. And I think that was so helpful and transformative because now it's relevant in every aspect of my life. And I really love that. This week, we're excited to welcome Dr. Ulluminair Salim and her students Jon Rosario-Bub and Temi David to talk about the Narrative Cartography course. Stay tuned.
Hi everyone, my name is Suhani Rao and I'm a first-year student majoring in biomedical sciences at the Judy Genshaft Honors College. I applied to the Genspiration Global Explorer Scholarship because of the vast amount of opportunities this scholarship would open up. I plan to use this scholarship to do multiple study abroad programs and also participate in research conferences throughout the country.
Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Salim, Jon Rosario-Bub, and Temi David. Can each of you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'll begin. So I'm Dr. Ulluminair Salim, and I am delighted to have my community here representing narrative cartography, mapping the stories of your life. I hope that we can really sink into the space, be fully present and authentic to who we are, to build community, which is what we do, and create a brave space together, right? The difference between safety and connection, safe space and brave space. So I'm looking forward to doing that today during our fireside chat.
I'm Jonathan Rosario-Bub, full name. I'm a third-year anthropology major.
I'm Temi David. I am going into my second year. I'm a psychology major with a minor in criminology.
Awesome. Thanks for introducing yourselves. So, Dr. Salim, your educational background includes a bachelor's degree in social welfare and a master's in public health, and you teach courses that focus on personal transformation and global injustices. Today, we'll be talking about your course, Narrative Cartography. How would you describe the course, and where did the idea come from?
Oh, so you mentioned that I earned my undergraduate degree in social welfare. It was at Berkeley that I first took a class called Visual Autobiography, and it was at a time that my grandmother was at the end of life. And it was really restorative for me to engage with the arts, to be able to tell important stories and to heal during that really challenging time. So this is an homage to that experience, and over the years, it's grown, evolved, shifted into kind of what our student body and the community of narrative cartographers of times past have really leaned into and co-created. Something that I would like to add is I spent 7 years in my PhD program, so please include that in the narrative of my life because it was quite a journey. So that's the backstory, the very brief backstory, and I think everything is storied. The brief backstory of narrative cartography.
How do you think the course has changed since you first taught it?
Yeah, so thanks for pulling on that thread, right, of the evolution of things. I first began with this vision of creating space to tell stories that matter to us that we dare not tell, right? That aren't a part of the everyday conversations, but that we carry with us and might not even know about ourselves, right? What are some internal narratives and lived experiences that impact who we are and how we move through the world? So, so it began with, okay, let's talk about death, dying, and remembrance, what it means to experience loss. And then over the years, it's morphed into grief and gratitude. Like, what are the things that we mourn and are grateful for? So rather than concentrating on the death of a loved one, for example, we may magnify this lost sense of time or kind of the lost sense of a former self, and really pulling in more play into the classroom. So taking play seriously, engaging in art projects or creating self-portraits, doing things that really expand the tools through which we tell our stories. So, it began with this kind of shell, and then the more it was peopled and the more students brought certain gifts and ideas into the classroom, it's become kind of more us rather than me.
I think that's such a beautiful framework for that course. Like you said, talking about the death of loved ones and grief. I think those experiences are so integral to who we are, but we often feel like there's no space for them in our work life or our personal life, or we just don't really know how to incorporate that into our full life story. And so having a course like that that focuses on that, I think that's just a really beautiful opportunity to, meld that throughout your whole life. So then for our students, what made you interested in the narrative cartography course and why did you decide to take it this summer?
I would say for me, I was just interested in the name of the class. Growing up, I really enjoyed writing, and so I started writing books ever since the young age of 7 years old. So I was a little crazy as a younger person. But yeah, so I loved writing, and so the idea of it being this narrative storytelling aspect of a class, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, that was kind of part of what drew me to the class. And I looked at the course description. I had really enjoyed just seeing what we could go into, talking about culture, talking about stories, and then the fact that I would be able to hear classmates' stories. And so that really interested me. And so I knew I wanted to take a class that would be fun during the summer and not just something that would be something just to fulfill a credit. So that's why for me, I chose that class and I decided to do it during the summer too. So yeah.
On a similar note, I didn't really have to take this class. It didn't fulfill any requirement. I just saw it and I thought, narrative cartography, that's very interesting. There's I'm trying to always find things that correlate with my studies and things like that, anthropology, all humans, and so I broke it down into what the words mean. Narrative, a story; cartography, a map, a story map. And I just thought that'd be really fun.
I find that the classes that I don't have to take are often my most fun and the ones I remember the most. And what I love and remember about USF and honors, and what makes this honors course different than the ones you've had before.
I feel like just in general, a lot of honors classes are just smaller in nature. So there's a small, close knit group. But in the previous honors classes I've taken, I've never really experienced a community like how this class was for us. It just became very quickly I started to know my classmates really deeply. Same thing with my professor. And so it felt like within the few weeks that we had this class, it just became oh wow, we all really became friends and we all started to know each other really well. And I think because the nature of the class is storytelling, it just comes to that point where you learn so much about a person and their story even before you met them. And it just makes you really interested in just learning more about them. So I think that's what was different about this course compared to other honors courses, the fact that we were able to build such a strong community in such a short amount of time. And then I think all the things that we did was just, I don't know, more fun in nature. Like our assignments, like one time we did like a podcast, one time like we worked in a group and we also like taught a class, which I think like it's just fun to be able to think about doing something like that for a class and not just writing an essay, for example. So, yeah.
On a similar note, this class was so unique compared to any class I've ever taken because we created this community, as Dr. Salim brought up. We created a brave space, which is different than a safe space. We let the ugliness come out. We let our vulnerabilities show, and it's just a space where you can be you can be a human. And on top of that, it's not only the community we built, it was Professor Salim that really helped make this class. So I appreciate having her lead this.
It sounds like such a vulnerable but also fun class. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the themes that were highlighted in the course and some of the projects that you did?
So the first thing we did when we came into class was talk about our names. Funnily enough, me and Temi were grouped up together. We had to tell the stories of our name. Before class, we prepared. There's always a prep assignment. You kind of get into that talking mood, And we came in there and we got to tell each other stories of our name. Yeah. And it was really fun. Through it all, there's so many different topics that we get to explore, Grief and gratitude was especially a vulnerable one. I remember we set up an ofrenda for the class, and we gave space to recognize and remember these things that we considered to be grieving. We had a unit on clothing and how we dress. Music, I personally love music. I do a lot with USF concert bands and music. But just so many things, parts of your life you don't exactly think about, brought into space that you can realize how important they are.
Just pulling on the thread that Jon was just talking about, where we tell stories of things that we don't necessarily think about. Like there was one assignment that we did was talking about like the spaces around us, what are spaces we spend the most time in. And we had to like pull out different items that are in that space, like the couch that we sit on or the bed that we use, things of that nature, and what make it such an important space. And those are things you wouldn't really necessarily think have that much of a story or tell that much about you. Or even when we did the food unit where we talked about foods that we really loved. So I think, yeah, pulling off of that, what Jon was just saying, that it's like so interesting when you're in that class, you don't realize how much of the spaces that we create around us that make us who we are and have so much stories to tell. So, yeah.
I think it's really important to see the perspective of students and how the professors put so much love and passion into the classes they're teaching. And how is it for you, Dr. Salim, teaching this class?
I'm getting a little emotional here, just kind of hearing you both recount your experience and recognizing that there is nothing greater than a purpose greater than self. Nothing greater than a purpose greater than self. And so to see the course through your eyes has been an incredible gift. And over the years, kind of hearing a similar refrain that this is not about me, but about us, right? Not even about you students, but about us as a community and as a collective. And we begin the course with names and the origin of our names, the power in and of a name. And then at the conclusion of the course, we talk about what is the difference between what you thought this course was and what your experience of the course was. And it's always really inspiring for me to see that what is written is very different from what is felt. And that most students, when describing their experience of the course afterwards, will say, I don't know what this course was, but it was transformative.
Mm-hmm.
Or I still can't really bring form to the amorphousness of what this crazy creature was. And yet it's dear, right? So I have no idea at all what you asked of me. And that is exemplary of what we do in the class is we get lost and we help each other find our way back. So I'm lost. Would you mind?
No, of course, of course. I asked, what was your experience teaching the class? Like how they explained how much love and emotions they had. Did you have the same feeling and connection while you were teaching?
That is so beautiful, that question, because absolutely. This course is really dear to my heart, in part because I too can be human with the course community. I can too tell a story of my mental health or experience of my body breaking down or of getting sick and being vulnerable. And I think in so doing, we create something kind of bigger than ourselves. So it's a profound experience for me because no two cohorts are alike. And I feel like I'm able to, again, as Jon and Temi offered, to see past the facade. And there is nothing more profound than even talking to a stranger and cutting through all of those superficialities, right? And saying, what do you care about? Where do you hurt? What do you need? How are we kind of having a shared human experience? So it's everything for me. And this is the one course that for me is the lifeblood of my career. This is what matters. I hope in however small a way that this will be a legacy of mine is that I fostered this community that endures outside of the classroom.
I think that's such a beautiful framework that you've created. It's just like, in college, so many courses are, if you're like in engineering, all you're doing is math. But then to have such a different course that's so focused on like who you are as a human and what, makes you you and what, your biggest downfalls have been and, your regrets or even just like where like you said, you've hurt the most and have somebody to like walk alongside you with that, I think it's so beautiful. And I know you mentioned a little bit about the expectations at the end of the course. So I'm kind of curious for you as students, what were your expectations going into the course and what surprised you the most?
I think I was fully expecting the class to kind of be more writing in nature. And we did write quite a bit, but I was not expecting us to kind of have a lot more discussion based, us telling our stories aloud. I've always been just more of a writer than me just being a speaker in general. I get nervous when I have to talk. It's a lot easier for me to type something up or write something down. So writing stories just comes more naturally to me. So whenever we were asked to tell stories aloud, I realized like how much more emotion there is and how much more you can connect with people when you hear them tell their story. So whether it's the voice cracking or just, the funniness or, being able to laugh with them when you hear the joke in their story and things of that nature. So I think I wasn't expecting there to be, yes, a balance of writing, but also so much discussion that, just brought out so much, I don't know, just so much good. And I think that's also part of how we were able to create a space where we all felt safe enough to be able to talk about some of those more vulnerable parts of our stories that we met before we all met each other.
I would say that community was really something that caught me off guard here. When you hear you're going to be telling your story, when you're going to be talking about you and how you feel, you don't really tend to reflect outwards and be like, well, this is your story too. But this space, everyone gave their story. You're a fraction of this massive collective story, the ever growing part. So coming in, I was just like, okay, I'm going to be telling who I am. Then by the end, I was sitting here, I'm like, I know so much about these people in the short 6 weeks we had.
Yeah.
Like, we fostered such a strong relationship. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
And it seems like the sense of community you grew is just so important. And that I'll go into a lecture hall and I don't know a single soul. I don't know anybody, and most people have no idea who I am. And a lot of the times I don't connect with any of them and they don't connect with me. And it seems like this specific class is completely opposite, which is really interesting to think about considering that most of your classes don't have that connection. And as for all of you, what was your favorite class day and why? Can you recall something that you specifically pulled, or any quotes or anything like that?
John, you want to go first?
Sure. It's hard to pick a favorite. This class was the highlight of my week. Coming in here for those 4 hours, you think it would be
Twice a week.
Twice. 8 hours a week.
Yeah.
If me and Temi didn't stay after and talk for an hour. But this specific activity about to let your child and childishness exist within you.
Yeah.
We watched The Little Prince. It's a beautiful film. I forgot I even watched it until, it came back up. But it's just exploring like that you can give yourself room to be childish, to let yourself have wonder. So in class, that day was funny. We did this primal scream as loud as we could. We did like 3 or 4, a couple of them. And I don't remember exactly who it was, but I think it was like the building manager had to come in and check on us.
Yes.
And then, did she join us?
She did.
Yeah.
I invited her to.
I actually remember
Scream.
this. I was here. I was in HA. I was here. I was closing, and I thought that was in my head.
No.
I could hear that.
No.
And I thought it was in my head.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way. I'm the only one hearing the scream.
No.
And it turns out it was you guys.
It was
It was
us.
heard. It was
Yeah.
heard. It was heard.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to be heard,
You do.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found that your favorite. That was one of my least favorites because I do not like screaming. In fact, Dr. Salim was like looking at me. He was like, "Temi, you need to scream." And I was like, "I don't think so. I think I'm okay actually." So, so it's funny that's your favorite. I feel like I'm also struggling because I feel like we've had so many different memories, and I'm not sure if I'm just pulling from like the ones that are most recent. But I really enjoyed whenever we talked about our food pathways, where essentially we had the opportunity to just talk about like the foods that we grew up eating, or just even like our relationship with food as we've gotten older. And I didn't realize how much of that has changed like over time. And it was just also really cool to see like so many of my classmates are just from different places and grew up eating different things. And I think food is just something naturally that can just bring people together. And so it was a lot of fun. So we had that class. We had the opportunity to like play like a mock chopped, like the cooking show. And Dr. Salim was, our judge or slash our, I don't know, like our moderator, mediator. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We had different groups and we basically, with different foods that we all loved, we had to like use those ingredients and make like a new dish. And that was a lot of fun. Maybe I'm biased because I just love food. And I also love to cook. So it was a lot of fun hearing from different people and even working with different groups that I hadn't really worked with those classmates before. So it was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed that class quite a bit. So yeah.
Temi, can you remember what the veritable feast your team created?
Oh, okay. Yes. I think we ended up doing like a pizza, but we pulled like different toppings from different foods. So from one of my favorite foods is like Jamaican food. And so I had jerk chicken on there. I think one of my classmates, he wanted, I think it was paneer that he also put on the pizza. Someone put like a pita, made pita being the dough of the pizza. So yeah, I think we pulled from like everywhere. It was like a all around the world kind of pizza. So, it sounds really good. I wish we actually made some real pizza, but fortunately we didn't, but it's okay.
We had some really trippy kind of mystery ingredient creations that class. I would love to, in the spirit of narrative cartography and being present myself as the professor, I would have to say that my favorite workshop was our Roots and Rituals workshop, where each of you brought in a contemplative practice that brings you comfort or joy. And that was a moment where I really felt this kind of, to be kind of hippie and new agey, this kind of spiritual, energetic shift for me as an educator. Last semester really was kind of a falling apart of everything. And sometimes in falling apart, it's an opportunity to kind of emerge anew and to grow. And so our class was that opportunity for me to say, okay, who am I? And what sort of gifts and aptitudes may I bring to this space? And I left feeling so fulfilled and energized, bringing my offerings to you, like meditation and cultivating presence, a little qigong, and then in turn, kind of hearing and experiencing, right, your own contemplative practices, which is really meaningful for me.
Yeah, it sounds like there's just so much depth in this course and richness. Out of like everything that you guys learned and went through in this course, what do you think you'll be taking with you moving forward?
That's a really good question. I think just overall, I think the course was just, it made me just kind of get out of my shell a lot more and a lot faster than I typically do. And I think it just is going to teach me just moving forward that like you really never know someone's story just by looking at them. Like you have to peel back those layers, ask those questions. And like no one is really truly who they seem. Like just like I know it sounds cliche, but don't judge a book by its cover. Like there really is so much more to a person than what they might present to you. And yeah, I'm really grateful for being in this course. Some things that I didn't even realize I still needed to work through. I was able to work through, specifically pulling back when we talked about the grief and remembrance, just talking about like sometimes we might either if it's loved ones or just even lost time. And I really realized like, yeah, there's some lost time or some memories there. I realized, oh my, like even in my childhood, there's some things I didn't realize how much time I had to grow up really fast. And so it was just really healing just to be a part of that experience. So yeah, I think one thing I'll pull from me or pull from this course for sure would be just like never just think that you know it all or know everything about a person or even just come in with your expectations. Just be more open-minded. And yeah, that's something I'll take away from this course.
I feel like I'm very much more reflective. Like the other day, I was sitting just in my room and I decided to do yoga. I'm like my makeshift yoga because I did not want to look anything up. I was going to bed. But we kept this journal through the whole class. And, we had to write logs on each class, but also a weekly contemplative practice. This might sound weird, but my contemplative practice was showering. Sitting in that shower just with the hot water, you can think so much. You have those shower thoughts. Dwelling on those shower thoughts is really what I did during those times. So, finding the stories in my life, thinking more deeply about how all these things I do connect to something larger. It's more mindful, makes me feel more whole. It's a very nice takeaway.
Yeah, it seems to me like the really big part of this course is reflecting on your personal story and others, and then retelling the story of yourself and others. And I think that's just really important, as Dr. Salim said. But how would you explain to other students why you should take this course and what about this course and similar courses that would be interesting and kind of market it to them? How would you do that?
I think I would encourage them that like this class is not really just a class. Like you're really going on a journey, reflecting on your past, your present, even looking a little bit into your future. And it's not even just about you too. It's about the people around you or even the people in your life that have influenced your story. So I would encourage them, like if they're willing and, I don't know, are in need of like discovering more about themselves or even just just trying to figure out who they are. I think this would be a great class for them, which I feel like in college, a lot of times that's really what we're all trying to reflect on. Like, who are we? Like, what do we want to be? And who do we want to be? And how do we influence the people around us? So I feel like, yeah, for every college student, it would be a great opportunity for them to discover that. And yeah.
So the first thing that came into my mind was you got to be a little prepared to get not uncomfortable, but uncomfortable in a way. You got to create that brave space. You got to come with good, like, prepared to share deep thoughts and vulnerabilities about yourself. I would say, it's for someone who wants to go down a journey of self-exploration and connection with the larger world, because through one of the lessons, or multiple lessons actually, we learn that not only are you here, you have your outer rings, you have the person who will walk by you once and maybe you'll never see them again, but they're just as complicated as you.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for sharing about your course and your individual experiences within this course.
I would like to just take a moment to thank our crew behind the scenes and the two of you for your generosity and asking us kind of the deep conversations and going off script and reflecting to us what you're hearing and what you feel based on what we're offering. So thank you for being a part of our community and for taking the time to join the fireside chat. That's narrative cartography.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us back in the studio.
I really loved our conversation today. I thought it was such a unique one for the course, and I thought there was just so much depth there with the projects that they did, the themes that they mentioned. I really, really loved that conversation.
And after reflecting with the connections that the students had with the teacher and vice versa, what I really took from is that it was like a phoenix rising from the ashes, which I think is really interesting. And I felt like that was the vibe I was getting from both of them and the connection with the course. And especially as a college student, you're in a weird age and position, and I think this course would be perfect for this age, especially in your undergrad. And being an honor student, I think it's just such a beautiful course and very important.
And if you're interested in joining the Narrative Cartography course, don't forget to check the Honor Roll newsletter and our website, usf.edu/honors, for upcoming events, updates, and more. That will do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by students Sandra Napolitano and Bama Shaw. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We appreciate your feedback. Please join us next week to hear more honor stories and talk to more members of the Judy Genshaft Honors College community.
Until next time, go Bulls!
That was better.
Thanks. All right.
I'm like,
So